Today is August the 18th, 2015. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I am in Jones, Oklahoma, which is in Oklahoma County, and I'm going to be interviewing Don Ramsey, and this is part of our Cowboy in Every County project. So thank you for having me today.
Well, I'm certainly glad that you're here. You're certainly welcome. Jones is a rather small town in size, but we're big in other ways. So we're glad to have you and appreciate it, and consider it an honor to have you here and interviewing my little part of life.
Good, thank you. Well, let's start with having you tell us when and where you were born.
Well, I was born in Three Sands, Oklahoma, and that's in Noble County, up in kind of the northwest, and it was an oil field town. And I was born in a tent. My family followed the oil wells, oil fields, and when they would go dry and the whole town would move, there's nothing at Three Sands now but a little sign about that tall, little T, and just says Three Sands. I'm not even sure it's there now. And soon after that particular time, that field, that oil field, went dry. And the custom of everybody was just to load up their things on their wagons and go to where the next oil field was. And my dad decided at that time, and it was getting so hard to stay up with those little, they got to be little pockets of oil here and there, and we'd go there and get set up, and then it's time to move. And so he decided that there must be I guess, a better life than that was. And so we left Three Sands when I was very young, I'll think about 2 years old. And he started driving, didn't know where he was going, but he was looking for a good school. I had one sister and 3 brothers, and of course my mother. And he was looking for a good school. This is a story that has been told me. And when he got down to Dale, Oklahoma, which is in Pot County, just east of here, about 20 or 30 miles, he thought he found a good school. And so he found a little 2-room rent house, and we moved into that little 2-room rent house. And I can just barely remember that house before we moved to another little 2 or 3-room house. And then we stayed there a little while. He was working for farmers in the area. Of course, he wanted to start farming, but he couldn't just start off farming. He started off working at that time for 10 cents an hour. And you know, we talk today about low salaries, and they are low, but they've been lower than it is now. And he worked that way. He and 2 of my older brothers worked that way, what work they could get, just scrounging up a little bit of this and that, until then he decided to start farming himself. And of course, farms back then were much smaller than what they are today. And so to kind of shorten the story, we moved to 5 different farms while I was in school, and I graduated at Dale in 1946. And so he wanted to farm, thought he could farm, but anyway, we finally did get a little, I believe it was a 60-acre farm, and he thought he could make a living on it. But anyway, it just never did work out, and he always thought that the next farm was going to be a better farm. 60, 75, 80 acres 80 acres was a big farm then. And so we would move from one farm to another about every 2 years, load up on the wagon and move all of our stuff to the various farms in the community. And so I graduated in Dale, at Dale High School in 1946. My 3 older brothers didn't finish high school, but my sister, which was the older of all of us, she did finish high school. She didn't go to college. I was the only one that did go to college. So, you know, and we had a good family. We weren't just rubbish, you know. We were a good family, and we tried to do things decently and in order. And that's sort of the way we were brought up, and thank goodness that's, and they're all gone now, but anyway, that's the way it was all their life. Just do things right. If you couldn't do them right, don't do them. And so we moved to those, like I said, 5 different places. So that's about a move every 2 years, really. And he always thought that that next farm was going to be better. I mean, we can move over here and we'll make so many bales of cotton and it'll be so much better. It never did happen. I mean, he just wasn't cut out to be a farmer. Yet he finished his life farming. But here I was, not a real good student, probably a C or C plus or maybe a B. And when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, I decided I wanted to go to college. And I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an, sorry.
That's okay. So, were you the baby of the family?
Yes.
And you were born in
1928.
28.
October the 31st, 1928. I was born in Three Sands, Oklahoma. So I was the last of the children and the last, of course, to be born there. And the rest of them were older than I were when we came to Dale. But anyway, we scrounged through those years. My 2 older brothers, the one next to me was still a little bit too young. He didn't fit into that work level, but the 2 others did. They would go out with my daddy and work for that 10 cents an hour and hopefully bring home enough money. We weren't expecting to accrue anything. We were just expecting to eat. And
was cotton the main thing?
Cotton was the crop. It really was. And I remember getting on the wagon and going with my daddy from Dale to McLeod, which was 3 miles, to the cotton gin, and taking that bale of cotton and getting it ginned, getting back on the wagon and going back to that farm. And of course I didn't know it then, but it was such a hopeless, hapless thing for us to do. Maybe that was his only choice, but that's a choice he made. And he finished his years making a living on the farm. I don't know how he did, but he did. And
did your mother work?
Yeah, she was a housewife and taking care of 5 kids.
That's work.
That was housework.
Yes.
Now she did go out into the field and pick cotton, or what we call pulling bowls. She did that, and I still wasn't very big then. I remember I was pretty big, but I'd ride on her cotton sack while she was going along, and we had enough people in the family to kind of take care of the gathering of our crop. But anyway, we had then an ag teacher. I wasn't in ag or FFA, but we had an ag teacher of one of my older brothers. In fact, it was my next oldest brother. And I liked that guy. He was just a good guy for even a little kid. And I decided then that I was going to be an ag.
In the 7th grade.
Yeah. And I didn't have a dime.
But you had a goal.
I didn't have a dime, and my father and my parents didn't have a dime. I don't know why, looking back now, that I thought that I could ever go to college. But I knew I was going to go to Oklahoma A&M. I don't know. I got a scholarship my first year to play basketball at another school. And I told the coach then, I said, I'm not going to be down there but 1 year. See, I'm still in school. And I say I'm not going to be down there but 1 year. And I want you to know that because I'll be leaving. Well, he probably thought that I wouldn't. But anyway, I stuck with that, and when the year was over, I got me away to Stillwater, and I enrolled in Oklahoma A&M. And the thing of it is, what was so good about it, I knew what I wanted to do. And that never did change. I don't know what it would have taken for me to have changed that, because that was just in me for some reason or another, that's the kind of work I wanted to be, and I was going to be an ag teacher. And so I transferred then, that was in, I'd gone to a year to another school, and then transferred to OSU in the fall of '47. And I didn't have no money. Washed dishes for a while, and you know, it didn't take much money. This is something that I have to thank OSU for. There's people there back there then, I wasn't the only one. There's people back there then that they would make a way for a student if they wanted to go to school. Now they may still do that, I don't know. But I know that they would make you a way if you wanted to. Well, I wound up in the lunchroom washing dishes. I didn't care what it was. And it was such a situation. We lived about where I stayed was about 1.5 miles out of the major part of the campus, from what we used to call Wilhelm Hall. I don't know whether you remember. It's just straight west of the Student Union now. Okay. And I lived in a place called OOHRP Halls. That was the period of time when there was a lot of veterans coming back. They were out of housing, and they had brought in hundreds of Army barracks. That's what they called them. They weren't barracks, they were about a 20 by 30. Just a square building with a low top, and they had 2 bunk beds in there, and so 4 people could stay in that. 4 boys could stay in that, that Quonset. Well, I don't know what they call it. And I found out back then, and I still remember that I always couldn't wonder. There's probably 200 or 300 of those. It's about about 3/4 of a mile southwest of the present hospital, the Oklahoma City Hospital. About 3/4 of a mile. That made it about 1.25 1.5 miles from the main campus. And that didn't bother me. I was used to just whatever, that didn't matter. But I found out then, and I'll never forget it, but somebody needs to make it known. You know what they call those Quonsets, those little 20 by 30, home of the red man. Just Oklahoma's got Indians and whoever named it that, but that was sort of the official name of those army barracks that they had moved in. 4 people, 2 bunk beds, 1 up and 1 down. And, but anyway, they named it the home of the red man. And I stayed in there all the time until I finished school. I didn't seem to walk. I didn't even have a bicycle. I did have a bicycle about the last year. Didn't have no car. But walking 1.25 miles or 1.5 miles and carrying 4 or 5 books, that didn't mean nothing to me. I was a tough farm boy. And so when I was there in the fall of '47, having gone to another school a year already, fall of '47, fall of '48, and the fall of '49, and graduated in the spring of '50. Need to go back to the other school. I was playing basketball, and we'd leave Friday afternoon, and we wouldn't get back in until Sunday. And I had enrolled in about 16 hours, which they didn't want a ball player enrolling very many, and but it didn't have no study time. And when I left this college, I only had 27 hours. I passed all of them, but not very good. And so when I got to Stillwater and I knew what my major was going to be, I decided, okay, when I get into my major, and they've given me a chance, they've done all they can do, I've got to do it. I just about studied all the time. When I went home on weekends, which I did, from Stillwater to mainly Shawnee, when I went down there, I would take my suitcase packed full of books. And I didn't do much of anything except study. But anyway, to make that story, try to shorten it down, I actually made straight A's in all of my major subjects. Not in all of my subjects, but all of my major subjects. Wow. And I was kind of honored a little bit, how they still do, some of that. And there's a lot of them that beat me because some of them were straight A students, but I wasn't that. But it pleased me so much, not having been ultra successful in my past history, that was pretty good. And in fact, it was pretty good for the people that was in the Department of Agriculture Education. And I had a couple of people that knew my background a little bit, and in fact, one of them was my old superintendent in high school, and he was asking everybody, "What are you going to do when you get out of school?" And so he got around to me, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna go to Oklahoma A&M, and I'm gonna be an ag teacher." Well, he started laughing because my background was nothing, and you wouldn't think he would do that, but he did. not thinking, I'll give him credit for it, but he put me down deep. And I had one other guy that told me the same thing. He wasn't a very influential guy. We were hauling hay one day, and he said, "What are you going to do? You're out getting out of school." I said, "I'm going to college." And he said, "You're going to college?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to be a school teacher." He said, "You'll be out here with me hauling hay in the next time I see you." And I said, "Well, okay, you just wait and see." And so I showed both of them. And I went through college, and Oklahoma A&M was a good college. And they would, like I said a while ago, if they determined that you was determined to direct yourself in a certain way and would do it, they'd help you. And so that was the situation in my college life. During that time, while I was in Oklahoma A&M, I was in the National Guard, which required some time each week and during the summer because I was in the reserve, and I can't remember the reason, but they were still taking people that were not in school or not in some occupation that they considered important. And so I had to do what I had to do along with my schooling. The National Guard had to come first, but I was able to do that. And while I was at OSU, which was 3 years, I missed one weekend going home from Stillwater to Shawnee, except one. I hitchhiked. Back then you could catch a ride. And I hitchhiked from Stillwater to Shawnee every weekend but one in 3 years. And that time it was snowing, and I caught a bus and went down there. But anyway, you couldn't do that now, and I don't know how students do that anymore. But I just imagine that if they go up there with determination, knowing what they want to do and will do it and put out whatever they have to do, they'd find a way. I mean, there just isn't a situation that, and I'm looking back a long ways, but there just isn't a situation where that if the student wants to do it badly enough, they'll do it. And
well, how did you get there the first time? You said you made your way. Did you have to hitchhike when you transferred?
I had a friend that was going up there also, and he had a car. Okay. And we went up and enrolled together, and we kind of parted ways. Finally, and I have to get this in, after I left OSU, there was 115 students in agriculture education graduating in December of the spring of '50. No, of the middle term of '50 to spring of '50. There was 115 graduates, and there was 15 jobs.
Wow.
In Oklahoma. And I went to, they sent me down. Back then, they would send everybody out. You could go in your own car, but when you got to that school, you walked in like little soldiers and sat down on a bench or chair and for your interview. And this was my first interview, and it was for a new school. and it didn't make me any difference. I'd have gone anywhere. But I got the job, and stayed there 2 years and was drafted into the Army. After I had taught the 2 years, well, that was a pretty good blow. And the Korean conflict had come along. Okay. And I wasn't the only one. But anyway, going to school or teaching, quite a few teachers then didn't go because they were teachers, but there's a lot of us that went that were teachers for some reason or other. And so I went into the Army, and luckily it was only 2 years until the Korean conflict came to an end, and they let a lot of us out early if we were going to go to school that summer. And I was working in what we call the discharge section, and I was reading these orders that the lieutenant was going to get next, and I was a private. I wasn't wanting to make a career out of it, and I looked at that thing, and it said any of our military people that are going to go to school or want to go to school this summer, we're going to get out early. And I couldn't believe it, and I read it 2 or 3 times, I guess, and I took it in and laid it down on the lieutenant's desk, and I said, you know, that affects me if I understand what it's saying. And he said, you want to go to school? And I said, yeah, I'd love to go to school. Of course, I already had my degree, but I would have started my master's, which I finally did get. And he said, well, I understand the order. He said, how soon you want to get out of here? And I said, today. And he said, well, come on now. And but anyway, in about a week, one of the other sergeants walked up and gave me my papers and said, you're leaving here. And so I came back, it's kind of late summer, and I had to get another school to teach because all the jobs had been taken. It was school hadn't nearly started by then. And so anyway, I spent 2 years at that school, and then I came to Jones and spent 16 years here. And that's when my wife and I started all of what you see here today. So, you know, the students that really want to go, I mean, if they really do, they can.
Well, did you meet your wife at OAMC?
No.
Oklahoma A&M?
No, I didn't meet her until 1965. We got married in 65. And so she was here, though, when all of her children were born, and all of this started. And the pictures are over there on the wall that shows kind of from one period of time to another. And we've taken a great deal of pride in what we've done, and we've tried to put it in scrapbooks or put it up here on this thing. And so, you know, I've maintained a good relationship, and I had a chance at one of the graduations to say a few words, and so I told the graduates that day, I said, don't ever forget your school. I said, cut all this out that you
No, it's great. That's fine.
And I said, You don't realize it today. They were graduating. But I said, you will in a little while. And you'll recognize just how important and what a part that the school has played in your life. And I said, when you can, you pay back to your school what they've given you. And so anyway, I don't know, I wasn't a good student, although I did make grades that got some attention in my major. I was just determined to do as well as I could, and I was willing to study. I didn't take those books home for nothing. I worked, and being just an average or a little bit better student, I just took advantage of it. And so I taught for a total of 20 years, and I loved it. But there come that time when I wanted to try something else, and I thought I knew what to do and how to do it, and taking some risk. Didn't have any money. I had $6,000 in teacher retirement, and of course that doesn't go very far. And I went to the local bank down here, and I told Nana Hogan, I said, he was on school board, and I said, Nana, I guess you know what I'm wanting to do. And he said, yeah. And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, I need some money. And he said, well, how much have you got? And I said, I've got $6,000, and it's all in teacher's retirement. I can get it, but that's all I got. And he said, that isn't very much to start a business. And I said, I know it, but I said, I'm going to do it. And he said, well, I'll loan you $6,000. So he did. He loaned me $6,000, and till this day, we have not borrowed $1 since then. That's right. And the boys, they're responsible for all of this. I retired about 3 or 4 years ago, but they had already started running the thing. They're both OSU graduates, one in Ag Econ and one in Ag Econ, and the other one Ag Education, double major. And of course they loved it too, but things had changed, and they didn't go to under the same circumstances as I did. And I tried to instill in them what I could, but that's just sort of something that you have to experience. And but they're doing an excellent job. They designed all of this, of course, then had it approved, and they could have started. They could have done a better job than what I did. They were so much more capable and willing to work, and so they're running Blue and Gold Sausage now, and they're covering a part of 4 states. And
why sausage?
Well, see, I was the FFA instructor, and see that over there on the wall, blue and gold, was their colors. And so I remember Dean, my wife, saying, what would you call your sausage? And I said, I'd call it blue and gold. And I'll have to get into this. But anyway, that started as a project when I was the teacher down here, because the school didn't have any money, and we had to make our own money. And so we had lots of hogs, and we started having the hogs butchered by a packing plant made into pork sausage, and then we would sell it door to door. And so when I got to thinking about it and kind of wanting to quit the teaching, I thought, well, if I do, I think I know what I need to do. I think that I've seen so much out with my boys down here. It didn't make any difference how much of that we made, we sold it. And we were the richest. The superintendent either didn't have any money or he wouldn't give us any money from day one. And finally, he was kind of coming to us for money because you could transfer funds from one department like FFA and agriculture education to another by law. You could on his books. And so I've had him come to us and say, well, can I pay the lunch bill out of your Blue and Gold fund? Well, I kind of hated to say yes because he hadn't been totally fair with us. But they finally changed it to where you couldn't exchange funds from the two different departments, you know, which I was glad of it because it kind of took a load off of me. And so anyway, that's where Blue and Gold. We see the name Blue and Gold is FFA colors, but they have trademarks in Washington D.C. They have the letters FFA, Future Farmers of America. They have those letters trademarked, and then the emblem itself is trademarked. So I knew that I didn't even want to. I mean, I thought too much of the organization to cut into there. But what we did, we decided we would call it Blue and Gold and make the package Blue and Gold. Well, immediately when that happened, everybody started calling it the FFA sausage. I mean, we couldn't name it that, but they did. And so today that's it. It's Blue and Gold sausage, and we sell mostly to FFA chapters, but we do sell to other groups other than FFA now. But anyway, where it got its name was from the FFA organization, Oklahoma, and I have to give Stillwater credit for this. Oklahoma A&M, I'll always call it Oklahoma A&M, but anyway, they knew how to turn out ag teachers. Then it was more of an agricultural college than I think it is now. But anyway, I had friends that slept in chicken houses. I know one guy slept in a chicken house. Ralph Dreesen that I was telling you about a while ago, I think he slept in the barn. I'm not quite certain about that, but we just all did what we had to do to kind of survive. But I don't think we didn't understand that. I mean, most of us were just kind of raised up that way. And when we got up there, and I have to tell this story. I probably set the record. I don't know this, but I probably set the record for the number of hours that was completed in 1 year's time at OSU. And here's what I did. I was short on hours when I left my first college. After playing basketball and got behind 2 or 3 hours. But let me see, I lost my thought.
How many hours did you have?
Oh, thank you very much. I had to, after losing that, if I was going to finish in 4 years, and I actually took out a year and a half, no, a semester and a summer. That's what it was. I took out during those 4 years to teach veterans agriculture training because lots of military guys coming back. And here I just had 1 year at A&M. And I thought, well, they're really wanting teachers. So I went in over there and they said, we've been waiting on you, just like you know. And so I took out a summer and taught and a semester, and of course accrued some money. And I was smart enough to say, hey, I didn't take this job to keep it. And so I resigned and went back to A&M. And in one summer's time at A&M, counting two semesters and summer school and August intersession, I completed 54 hours.
That's a lot.
And the last year to graduate in the spring of 50, I had to get 24 hours. You had to go to Dr. Wilhelm. You don't know him, but he finally became the president of the college. So I went in there and told him, you know, he was real nice, real friendly. And what can I do for you, Mr. Ramsey? And I said, well, I hope you can help me out. He said, what do you want? And I said, I'm wanting to enroll in enough hours that will get me out of here next spring. Then it was this spring. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I got to have 24 hours. And he looked at me kind of mean, because that was unheard of. And he said, what is your hurry? And I said, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to starve to death. And I said, you've got my transcript right there. And I said, if that's not enough to tell you that I can and will do it, then just forget it. He reached over and got his pencil kind of mean-like and just scribbled it. I finished that 24 hours in my last semester, and that made the 54 hours from 1 year to the next year. I don't believe that has ever been exceeded. I just don't believe it, because it's just kind of ignorance, really. But
you passed them all.
I passed them all and passed them good. I didn't have I was up in those subjects where they were in my major, and a little more agriculture, like I had a background for. Mm-hmm. And so I've never, I would like to have thanked him later on for that. He would probably have remembered it, because he was upset. But it's just like I said a while ago, they would court have been the rules if they had to.
Were you still working in the cafeteria?
No, I wasn't. I'm on my second marriage, and the last 2 years I didn't wash dishes.
Okay.
So.
And you didn't live in? Did you live in Oratupa?
Yes, I did. I stayed in Oratupa Halls.
Oratupa.
Home of the red man.
How were they heated? If they were, did they have a?
Yes, they had a lunch hall that was a bigger barrack type deal than everybody up towards the hospital. And of course all that's gone now, been gone for years. But you know what, I wouldn't take anything for having lived in Oratupa Halls. Now, there's the people, some of my friends live on the campus and was lucky to get rooms. They was awfully short with veterans coming in with GI Bill, taking up all the room that they had. Mm-hmm. And
well, were there showers or? that
It
type
was
of thing?
you had to go outside about every 6th or 7th little hut. They would have a little hut that had a shower in it. So everybody in that area, not just in 5 or 6, but a bunch of people. But you just went out there and I can remember maybe there'd be 6 or 8 in there at one time, just trying to get wet. And so, you know, and let me tell you this, you know what it cost us by the month? The college, you know what A&M College charged us by the month? $6. $6 a month. And I want to tell you one more thing. At that time, A&M was just charging up to 14 hours for any expenses. If you took 16, you got 2 free. Well, I was taking 16 and 18 and 20. Look what I saved when I got to 24. Because they still was, you still paid $4 an hour for 14 hours, and that's all you paid for. I never have figured that out. But it was so helpful then that it made a difference in my deal. And
Well, you played basketball at the other school. Were you not able to?
no, I wasn't that good, and I didn't even try. I wouldn't. Had I been good enough, I might, but I wasn't of that caliber. And
Did you go to the games?
no, and I tell you what I did. I saw one football game. No, saw one basketball game, and no football games in the 3 years I was up there. And I always sold my ticket. I had a guy that always he was a veteran, so he was on a GI Bill. He'd give me $1 for that ticket. He knew where to go and get it, and I'd save it for him, and I'd get that $1 and stick it in my pocket. And so you know, that's something that now right now I don't know what it is, but I do hear, you know, it's so expensive, and I just don't know how they're doing it. But we got by, and so they can get by. They will get by if they want to. They will get by, and.
What would you do for fun if you were studying and working? Did you have time for fun?
No, I didn't fun. There was no fun.
No dances or playing cards
No,
or none of that?
No. There was none. I just, and it's kind of affecting me now because I don't really have a pastime. I watch TV and things like that. But I went to one basketball game. I remember that very game I went to. And of course, OSU, Oklahoma A&M was winning their basketball games at that time. And I guess that was good, but I thought that the idea of them charging you $4 an hour up to 14 and nothing there on up. And here I am every semester taking 18 and 20 and 22 and 24. Mine was at about half price. Didn't nobody ever say anything to me about it. And but I'll just never forget what the college did for me.
Well, graduation day, did your parents go up for it? The ceremony or?
For graduation?
For graduation. Do you remember?
I don't remember. That's a good question.
You were just done and out.
Yeah. I just don't remember. They were proud of me. My dad wasn't too hep on me going to college. But my mother, whatever I wanted to do, she was going to see that I got it. And been a time or two that I'd have to lean on her. She didn't have no money either. Have to lean on her But if I owed her $50 when the school year was over, that summer I paid her back before I ever started trying to accrue anything to start back again in school.
Well, when you went home on the weekends, would she do your laundry?
Yeah, she would do my laundry. I had books and some laundry.
Well, the main reason
I tell you what I did. When I was in OOHRP Hall, and I was working in the lunchroom in that long barrack washing dishes, so I got my one meal when I was doing that. And I'm kind of forgetting that.
Well, one meal, what would you do for the other two?
Oh yeah. You've never heard this before. When I was living in the OOHRP halls at Oklahoma A&M, I'd buy a pound of bacon on Monday, and that would do me to Friday. Now I was eating my noon meal in the place where I was working, washing dishes. So I don't remember what I did for breakfast. I don't know. But anyway.
So you could cook in your room?
No. Well, I believe you could have a little electric burn. I believe you could. I never did. But other than just frying the bacon, that's all. Yeah, I did. I fried the bacon.
In the bacon.
Yeah, to make that sandwich. It was a bacon sandwich. Okay. And I ate that for a long time. Bacon will keep in the window a long time.
Especially in the wintertime, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's even better. But
well, do you remember like how many change of clothes you had when you went? One or two outfits?
Not very many.
Blue jeans? Or?
I think some of them were still overalls.
Overalls, okay.
I remember in high school, I had to make one pair of overalls do a week. Boy, you learn to take care of them when you know that you've got to, from now till Friday, to put that same pair of overalls on.
Your mother washed once a week? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a sort of a little different story that you know, maybe hear on OSU, but you know, I haven't forgotten them. I still help the OSU Foundation. They made me a honorary member 2 years ago. And just things that I just kind of worked with OSU now in doing some things that someone else has to do. And
well, what did you think of the name change?
well, I didn't really like it, even though I had just gotten out. I couldn't imagine anything other than Oklahoma A&M. And I hope they don't ever change it again. But, you know, you never know. But the college has grown so. Back then, Dr. I believe it's William G. Bennett was the president, Dr. Bennett. And he was also good. And they was all had a heart that wanted to see people do good. And we may have lost a little bit of that because we got so many people, you know, that's going now. And I don't know, but I know they're still doing a good job. I know enough about what's going on up there right now to know that they're still doing a good job.
Do you go up for homecoming?
When I can. Sometimes they're working here and I don't go, but sometimes we're able to go up and catch the Friday night and Saturday deal, you know, and my two sons both graduated there, and one of my daughter-in-laws graduated there. And so we don't have anybody around here to argue with us about OU. I mean, they just shut up and it's OSU.
Well, back on your sausage, did you have a particular recipe you used for it?
Yes, I did. This man that was making our sausage for the local FFA chapter while I was teaching, Oklahoma City bought him out. He lived down here about 8 miles. They bought him out to build a lake. And he was making our sausage for us. We wasn't making it. And one day I was taking a load of hogs down there, and I said, you gonna quit or move or what? He said, no, I'm through. I said, what are you gonna do with your recipe? And I said, he said, I'm not gonna do nothing. I said, how old is that recipe? It was a good one. And he said, it's old as my daddy and me. And I said, what are you going to do with it? And he said, I'm not going to do nothing with it. He said, you want it? I said, yeah, I want it. Well, I didn't have any. That was probably the first thought that I ever had about getting in the sausage business myself. And he said, it won't take me long. And he just had a little box there, and he just reached in there and got it and handed it to me. And he said, now I'll have to notify my company that I've done this, but you won't have no trouble, because everybody had their own recipe. They can't nobody copy our recipe now. It's a military secret. So that's just the way it is. We think it's the best that's made, but there's probably someone that's doing better, but we're doing the best we can do. And started in 1970, and so that's 70 up to 100. That's 30 years, and then 15. We've been in it 45 years. Well, that's quite a while. And so you ought to accomplish something, but a lot of people go 45 years and still haven't done nothing.
True.
Do
you still do your own hogs?
Do we do it now?
Mm-hmm.
We kill, yeah. We've got a new plant back there. It's just like this. We kill our. Wait a minute. Let me back up. We did a little bit. You said kill our own hogs. We get our meat boned out from Seaboard Farms at Guyman.
Okay.
And it comes in on a 18-wheeler, and they haul us in 42,000 pounds. Each truck will haul 42,000 pounds of boned out meat. We're getting it boned out now. Have been for quite a while. I was about to mess up on that, but
makes a lot of sausage.
Yeah, we make a lot of sausage. We can make about 60,000 pounds a day.
Wow.
When we started, we could make about 2,000 pounds a day. We used to take the package of sausage and have a roll of film, and it would be enclosed on the bottom and seamed up the side, but the top would be open so that you could fill it, and we would tie each bag with a bread twist, one bag at a time with a bread twist. We've got a machine back there now that will make 9,000 pounds an hour.
Wow.
So we're proud. We have a right to be proud.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just look back and try to knowing how everything worked. It's pretty silly, really.
What was the vocational ag teacher's name? that you admired so much?
Yeah.
What was his name?
He had two that year, and his name was Eldon Gunn, and he got shot up in the war. But I was a little old boy about that tall, and he always had something to say to me.
Made an impression.
So you never know when you're going to make an impression on somebody. And
Well, were your parents from Oklahoma? Or
yeah, they were Oklahomans, yeah. A little bit of Arkansas, but mostly Oklahoma, yeah.
Well, was church an important part of your growing up?
Church has always been an important part of the family, and was then, and still is today.
Well, when you were at Oklahoma A&M, would you go in Stillwater? Or
No, I did not go at that time.
you went home most of the time, but
I was at home. I don't know that I missed a week going home hitchhiking, and then you could hitchhike. People would pick you up. They won't do it no more, but they would pick you up. And boy, if you'd put a OSU or Oklahoma A&M sticker on your suitcase, they'd just pick you up like everything. And but that one day, I'll never remember. It was half sleet and half snow, and a bus come along, and I waved him down and rode it to Shawnee.
and the reason you would come home every weekend was to work with your dad or get your mother's cooking.
Well, it was a little better then than it was up there, and I knew getting there and getting back, I didn't consider that a problem. But laundry, I remember they would go to Shawnee, which was 6-7 miles away, and I'd stay at home and study. I was taking a lot of hours. I had to do it, but I probably would have done it even if I'd been taking 12 or 14 hours. I'd have probably still studied. That just had to come first, and so you know, it's.
Well, the library and the student union, the building process was just starting when you were there, or finishing up. Do you remember? I mean, the library opened in '53.
I remember them building the library. I think then after then it came a big hailstorm, and I think both the union and the library, I could be wrong about this, had that clay roof on it, and the hail just beat that stuff, that all to pieces. And what was funny, now this is funny, but back then we had walkouts, and they don't know what it is anymore. But back then, if one of the teams won an important game, we just all walked out. Students didn't go to class. It didn't make no difference what the teachers said there or not. There wasn't no students in that classroom. And so that's faded. I haven't heard of that term in I don't know when. But all the time up there, when OSU would win a basketball game that was important or a football game, there was an automatic walkout. Now after that, I do remember the school started giving that day off because they knew it would, I guess, that it wasn't going to be no students in there anyway. And so that's something that was interesting, and I always looked forward to it. And you know what? I studied. It was a day that I was able to catch up, you know, and I worked harder than I had to work. I always thought when I started out that I was gonna not do well in the class. But when I got through, I'd have a A or a B. And I was serious all the way through. I thought that I'm gonna flunk this course. And I don't even know how that, it was just that way. And so I took courses that probably a little ahead of where I was, and did all right with them, did well. And but when I got into my major subject, I was president of what we called the agriculture education class or department. I was a president the senior year, and so you know, it was by election by the students, and I had no idea. In fact, they caught me by total surprise when I was nominated, and it was just about unanimous that I was the president.
You didn't have time to be.
I didn't have time, and I'd never been in that position. And so it come time, and we had to do some things as officers, president, vice president, just like any other organization. And I was literally scared to death. And it went fine, and found out later that they got an A. And so, you know, it's just a story that I'm not saying other students didn't do the same thing, but there's not very many that did it under the same circumstances that I did.
So you're right. What did any of the students that you taught follow in your footsteps?
I had one that made a doctor, and he's in Stillwater today and already retired, carried couch.
Did he do vocational ed or ag?
He took ag, but then he became a doctor.
An MD doctor, not a PhD doctor?
I told them at all the people at Stillwater, most of them knew Dr. Couch. And I always told him when I got a chance that the first thing that he ever did in becoming a doctor was when he helped castrate pigs or sew one up that was ruptured. And I still didn't like it was, but they thought that was funny. Well, maybe that was the start of him being a doctor. How do I know? See, I'm not going to take nothing away from him. So he's retired now, made a good doctor. In fact, a lot of the personnel at Stillwater, he was their family doctor. And sometimes they'd find out that he had graduated at Jones and was president of the FFA, and he was quarterback on the football team, and they thought, that's strange, he's our doctor, you know. But anyway, no, I don't think I ever had a student that made an ag teacher.
Or a cooperative extension?
No, not that I know of. Had a lot of boys. We had quite a bit of shop, and in addition to our livestock, and I had boys that would come back years later and say, Mr. Ramsey, you know what I'm doing? No, have no idea. Maybe hadn't seen them in 6 or 8 years, and they said, I'm a welder. Just as proud of themselves as they could be. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. Finding what what you have passion for, and you found yours early. 7th grade, that's pretty early. And stick with it.
It's, I'm so close to it because it, going on to then Oklahoma A&M, I was so close to it then, and I've maintained that relationship clear up till today. And that's good when you can do that.
Sure.
And they've been good to me, and you know, I have one group that in particular that we've helped in various ways, and we started the organization that really put them on the map up there, and they appreciate it. You know, it's not something that you can do, and you're not ever, you don't know where they don't even know where it come from. That's not really what it is, and that goes with the college itself. We've had people sitting here at this table from OSU, from practically every level, and we don't forget them, and they don't forget us, and it's just nice to have that relationship, because there's so many that they lose that when they leave, and they don't ever gain it back. But since being an ag teacher, and I was associated then with 400 other teachers across the state, and when we started, I had a pretty good base, because when I would go to those people and say, hey, Jack, you need to try this fundraiser, they'd do it. They say, well, we'll try it. Well, if I could just get them to try it, they're hooked. And so, you know, that thing, it's still going today. We have competition as everybody else has, but we've got a motto that's rather common. If you can do it better than we can, do it.
Do it. And both boys, you said you have 2 children? And
I had one daughter that passed away, and I had another son that passed away early from heart surgery.
They were OSU grads. You didn't force them to go to Oklahoma. OSU.
Well, I didn't really force them to, but when we would go, like going south, I always said we went around Norman. And so they didn't hear anything. You know, they didn't, I mean, it wasn't even an issue. And I've got a granddaughter now that we've already started her fund. And the 2 daughters here are going to be veterinaries. You know where they're going to go to school.
Sure.
And they're my wife's niece's children, and they work for us. But they're little now. One's about a 5th grader, and the other's about an 8th grader. But they're good.
OSU legacy.
They're the only difference going to be in them is they're going to have to go by OSU. And I guess we just have to forgive them for that. But it's it's been pleasurable, and wouldn't trade a minute for it. Don't ever look back and say, well, I should have done this or should have done that. When I walked down to the bank down here and had $6,000 in I'd drawn my teacher retirement out because I was drafted into the Army, and I never did think I'd teach again. And so I drew it out, about $3,000. But anyway, when they said, well, we'll loan you $6,000, I went out and spent that $6,000 in about a month, I'm gonna say. And I didn't have no school check coming in. And I thought, what do you do now? And we had a little business started already. The year before I had quit, 2 years before I'd quit, I had gotten some, they were ag teachers, but already retired, to do this for me. So we really started 2 years early because they were doing it because I couldn't do it and teach ag. And the ag program, where'd you say you was reared?
Tennessee.
Yeah, they're good too. But the ag program in Oklahoma is good. Mm-hmm. It is good. And if I had, and both my students, they were national winners. This trophy here and the one over there, they were national winners in ag processing. And they had to win the local, had to win the state, had to win the local, the district, the state, and then go to the national and compete on a national level. And they were 3 years apart, but they both won that division when they came to that. And so I have a lot to appreciate the FFA for, even personally. But they just they followed me, and I didn't have to do any coaxing. Now they knew the business was here because it was already established, and they knew that they would be running it. That is, if they chose to, but there never was a question. That's kind of strange, really, even because you'd always think, well, because I hear students say all the time, well, I'm not going to do what my dad did, but they never had the thought of not doing what we did. In fact, we made a family partnership, and they became part owners when one of them was 7 and one was 10. Partnerships. Can you imagine kids being in partnership? And they didn't even know what it was.
But they do now.
They do. Oh yeah, they do now. I guarantee you.
Well, how has Jones changed through the years?
Well, when we came here, this was a gravel road out here. That's one thing that's happened. Hasn't changed a lot in people that live here, numbers. We've upgraded, the school is new from one end to the other. In fact, year before last, we built a new FFA show barn, not a classroom, a show barn that we have the county fair, which is usually at the fairground. We have it out here. And we also built the FFA a new classroom and shop. But 3 years before that, our school burned down, and had to vote a big bond issue. And but anyway, our school is totally new, and we're getting people moving in because you can drive by the school and say, hey, I want my kids to go to school there.
We're pretty close to, no, Oklahoma City's not that far away.
Well, Oklahoma City is really about a mile west.
Okay.
So parts of it, yeah, parts of it is.
I did learn my geography here.
Yeah, that's, we have Choctaw over here 5 miles. And then we have Hera over there 7 miles. And then we have Luther back here about 6 or 7 miles. And then Carl Albert, which is a part of Midwest City, over this way, but farther away. And then Edmond, of course, up where they are. And this county's, we have good schools. And but I'd say that, well, of course, Edmond, they're building two new schools this year. And see, they got the tax base to do that, and we don't have that out
It
here.
keeps growing, Edmond does.
Yeah, and they never will stop, I don't guess.
It's a lot of
The only
subdivisions.
way they'll stop is for people to surround them. It's the only way they'll stop. So,
Been a pretty good life, huh?
it's been a good life.
And do you have a little bit of orange in your closet? At least one orange shirt?
I've got orange everywhere. Yeah, I have orange. They talk about your blood running orange, you know. Well, I guess I have that. But that little cap right there was given to us. Maybe you can look at it and tell that it was made by someone at well, no, I don't know that at OSU. But anyway, that was a token of their appreciation for a thing that we had done for them, and we just they don't ever. They're one group. Well, I'll speak for ourselves. We haven't ever done anything that we don't get more response from than what we deserve.
They tend to do things in style, don't they?
Yeah. Right-o.
Well, if anything else you want to say before we close?
No, a lot of that you'll have to cut out.
No, it was perfect. It was. That's what we hear. We want to get those stories that you don't hear every day, and yours is one very, very good one. I'm glad we have it. So thank you so much for sharing it.
I don't know, you get to kind of wonder about other people around, but I don't know anybody that went from something to nothing. I mean, from nothing to something, that's what I mean. I don't, they're out there, a lot of them, but you can do it.
You can do it.
I mean, it's just, you have to be, you gotta be hard-headed, and then you gotta be ignorant. I mean, you know, who would walk into a bank and borrow $6,000 expecting to start a business with $12,000 and eat off that? I mean, you know, that's not normal. And people laughed at me and made fun of me and whatever. But they'd say, you'll be back. One guy I remember saying in a group said, you better watch Ramsey because he's looking for your job. I wasn't looking for a job. I just went back that day to visit with him. And I had a chance about 5 years ago to remind him of that. And he said, you know, I believe I do. It was on a school bus. I said, I believe I do remember saying that. And I said, I know you said it. And he said, you don't want nobody's job, do you? And I said, no, I don't want nobody's job. It's,
Well, hopefully he's having your sausage for breakfast.
ma'am,
Hopefully he's having your sausage for breakfast.
well, I don't know whether he's living or not, but see, I'm close to 87. So he's older than I am, and so he's in his 90s, if he's still living.
Well, when was the last time you had a bacon sandwich?
We have a lady, I hurt this leg a while back, and that's why I've got the walker here. We have a lady staying with me. My wife's still coming down here. I try to get her to quit, but I don't know. Since I'm not here, why, she's got two daughter-in-laws that she's kind of breaking in, and I don't know. I know about the past, but I don't know about the future. Oh my. Don't know about the future.
Well, I appreciate you talking with me today.